The rain poured down on New York City that night, as if it wanted to wash away every sound, every light. Water splashed across the streets, blending with the blaring car horns and the hurried footsteps of strangers rushing by. And there, under the broken awning of a long-abandoned store, sat a trembling figure, huddled up against the cold. It was a woman, her frail shoulders curled beneath a thin, torn coat. Her hair, soaked and tangled from the rain, clung to a face once breathtakingly beautiful, but now hollow, gaunt, and broken. Once, that face could light up a room. Tonight, it was just the face of despair. Her pale, trembling hands stretched out as she whispered, "Please, just something to eat." Her voice was hoarse, so faint it was nearly drowned by the pounding rain. People hurried past without even looking. Some turned their faces away. Others sneered in disgust. A few even laughed. In the glittering neon lights of this proud city, she was nothing more than a shadow, someone invisible, someone forgotten. A young man walking by muttered to his friend, "Damn, another junkie." "Yeah, look at her. Doesn't even look human anymore." She heard every word, each one sliced into her heart like a blade, but her lips were too weak to protest. Tears slid down her cheeks, blending with the icy rain, and in that moment, one thought burned inside her. If only I had taken a different path. If only everything hadn't fallen apart. Then suddenly, a deep, rumbling engine. A sleek black limousine pulled up to the curb. The door opened, and out stepped a man. His tailored suit fit him perfectly, polished shoes gleaming beneath the streetlights. He walked with the kind of confidence that made strangers stare. It was none other than Ethan Carter, America's youngest billionaire. The man whose face graced the covers of financial magazines, the man who once shook Wall Street with bold, ruthless deals. Ethan never paid attention to the ordinary. But this time, his eyes froze on that broken figure under the awning, and at that exact moment, a bolt of lightning lit up the night sky. It struck her face just long enough for him to see clearly. Ethan stopped in his tracks. His heart nearly stopped beating. "No, it can't be," he whispered. That face, sunken, frail, but unmistakable. He knew it instantly. Sophia Miller, his first love. The woman he once swore to protect for the rest of his life. The woman who had vanished from him 10 years ago, leaving behind a wound that had never healed. Memories rushed back. Those college nights when they dreamed of a small house, a couple of kids, and a love that would last forever. But fate had been cruel. He rose to the top of the world, while she, the angel he once adored, now sat in the freezing rain, begging for spare change. Ethan's fists clenched tight. A storm of pain and fury surged inside him. Who had done this? Who had turned an angel into this? He stepped forward, each stride heavy, like he was carrying 1,000 pounds. The umbrella in his hand shielded him from the rain, but it couldn't shield him from the storm raging inside. When he finally stood in front of her, he bent down, his voice breaking. "Sophia, is it really you?" The woman lifted her head, her eyes empty and hollow. The moment she recognized his face, her lips trembled, her whole body shook. But instead of relief, instead of joy, Sophia turned away, covering her face, shaking her head weakly. "No. No, it's not me. Just go." Ethan froze. Why was she avoiding him? Why did her eyes hold more than shame? Why did they carry a secret, a truth he didn't yet understand? The rain kept pouring down, but in that moment, the only question that mattered was, what really happened to Sophia? How did such a beautiful love end in such tragedy? And now that Ethan, no longer a college boy but a billionaire, had found her again, what would he do? The answer would come soon. Sophia Miller was born in a small southern town, surrounded by endless cotton fields and a life that revolved around a few old factories. She grew up in a poor working-class family, her father a night-shift laborer, her mother a housemaid for wealthy families. Money was always scarce, but Sophia carried something no one could take from her: a kind heart and a fierce spirit. From a young age, she stood out, smart, hard-working, and blessed with a beauty that turned heads. Teachers would often say, "Sophia wasn't born to stay stuck in this town. She's meant for bigger things." But Sophia's dream wasn't riches or fame. It was simple: to become a teacher, to help children as poor as she once was. At 18, she earned a scholarship to one of New York's top universities. It was her chance to change everything. On the day she left town, her mother hugged her tight, tears wetting her shoulder. "My girl, live happy, and no matter what, keep your heart pure." Sophia carried those words like a promise. On campus, she met Ethan Carter, a bright, ambitious young man from a well-off family. Back then, he wasn't a billionaire, just another student dreaming of starting his own company. Handsome, confident, but unlike other men. What drew him to Sophia wasn't her looks, but her pure, unpretentious soul. Their love bloomed quickly. They were two puzzle pieces that fit perfectly. Sophia taught Ethan patience and kindness. Ethan showed Sophia how wide and full of promise the world could be. Many nights they sat by the Hudson River. Ethan spoke of startups and business empires. Sophia dreamed of a small house with a garden. Ethan would squeeze her hand and vow, "I'll do whatever it takes, as long as I have you by my side. One day, I'll give you the best life possible." Sophia would smile, her eyes shimmering. "I don't need riches, just you and a family. That's enough." But life rarely follows our dreams. When Ethan began building his company, he threw himself into work, forgetting meals, forgetting sleep. He wanted to prove himself to the world. And more than that, he wanted to keep his promise to Sophia. But his obsession with success slowly pulled him away from her. Sophia tried to wait. But then, tragedy struck. Her father fell gravely ill, and the hospital demanded a fortune for surgery. Desperate, she worked every job she could find, waiting tables, handing out flyers, even back-breaking manual labor. But the money barely made a dent. Then came the trap. A woman promised her a high-paying job. In her desperation, Sophia believed her, only to find herself lured into a trafficking ring. She barely escaped before being forced into something unspeakable. But the cost was devastating. She lost her job, her scholarship, her reputation. When she returned to campus, she couldn't even lift her head. Rumors spread like wildfire, every whisper cutting her to pieces. And Ethan, surrounded by investors, business plans, and endless meetings, never noticed the depth of her despair. One night, during an argument, Sophia finally broke down in tears. "I can't do this anymore. I have to go home to take care of my dad. I'm sorry." And then, she was gone. Disappeared from his life without a trace, without a single explanation. Ethan was crushed, but he convinced himself she had chosen to leave. So he buried the pain and threw himself into work. The heartbreak drove him, and in time, he became a billionaire. Yet that first love, the girl he once swore to protect, remained like a scar etched deep in his heart. But Sophia, her path turned dark. Her father passed away only months later, unable to afford treatment. Her mother's health collapsed under the grief, leaving her too weak to work. The tiny house they had was nothing but a shell of sorrow. Sophia became the only one left to hold everything together. She took every job she could: cleaning floors, waiting tables, heavy labor in warehouses. Her once delicate hands grew rough and calloused. Her thin shoulders bent under the weight of survival. Still, the money was never enough to cover her mother's medicine. In her desperation, she clung to a promise once made by an old childhood friend, Kelly. Back then, Kelly had told her, "If you're ever in trouble, come to me. We're friends, always." So when Kelly said she had a stable job waiting in New York, good pay, Sophia's heart leapt with hope. She packed what little she had, brought her sick mother along, and left for the city of dreams. But it was all a lie. Kelly had changed. The sweet girl Sophia once knew was gone, replaced by someone hardened, greedy, corrupted by money. The job wasn't in an office or a store. It was in a seedy nightclub, a place where women were forced to sell themselves just to survive. When Sophia realized the truth, she panicked. "No, I can't. I'd rather die," she cried, tears streaming down her face. Kelly's tone turned venomous. "Don't be stupid, Sophia. You think you can pay for your mother's medicine scrubbing floors? Be smart. Obey. The money will come fast." But Sophia refused. That no cost her everything. Kelly's mask of friendship vanished. She shoved Sophia and her frail mother out of the tiny apartment they'd been sharing. "Fine. You want to starve? Do it on the street. Don't come back," she screamed, slamming the door. That night, rain poured as Sophia huddled under a crumbling building with her mother. The old woman coughed violently, every spasm racking her weak body. Sophia held her close, shivering, whispering apologies through tears. "If only I hadn't trusted Kelly. If only I'd been stronger." The next day, she searched for work. But in a city this big, with no degree, no address, no one to vouch for her, who would hire her? Door after door slammed shut. She picked through trash, collected bottles, anything to scrape together a few coins. But the little she earned could barely buy bread, let alone medicine. Then disaster struck. One night, while Sophia was out scavenging for food, thieves broke into the abandoned spot where she and her mother slept. They snatched away their worn cloth bag, the one that held a few coins and her mother's pills. The old woman tried to resist, but was shoved hard to the ground. Her weak lungs gave out in a fit of coughing, and when Sophia returned, it was too late. She screamed into the night, clutching her mother's lifeless body, begging for help. But in the glittering, heartless city, nobody stopped. Nobody cared. After that night, Sophia was shattered. No home, no family, nothing left to anchor her. She drifted into the ranks of the homeless, just another forgotten soul on the sidewalks of New York. But the hunger and cold weren't the worst part. It was the eyes, the way strangers looked at her with disgust, with judgment. One afternoon, outside a cafe, she begged softly for a piece of bread. She overheard whispers behind her. "Pathetic. Look at her. She must have been trash her whole life." Yeah, no decent woman ends up like that. Each word cut deeper than knives. Sophia wanted to scream, wanted to tell them she once had dreams, once was a student, once was loved. But who would believe a beggar? And through all the pain, she still carried a secret so heavy it kept her from ever going back to Ethan. A secret that chained her to silence, a secret that was the real reason she disappeared from his life 10 years ago. Cliffhanger. What was that secret? And did it tie directly to Ethan, the man who was now one of the most powerful billionaires in America? In the days after her mother's death, Sophia drifted through the city like a fallen leaf. No home, no family, nothing left. She was officially homeless now. Each morning, she woke up shivering on a piece of cardboard under a bridge, surrounded by the roar of traffic. Each night, the sound of the wind howling through the cracks and the rain pounding on rusted tin overhead played like a cruel symphony, one written just for her. Hunger became her constant companion. Sophia scavenged from restaurant dumpsters, fighting off rats and pigeons for scraps. Some days, the only thing she ate was a single piece of dry bread. The hunger gnawed at her belly, left her dizzy, her body weak. But worse than hunger was when sickness set in. That brutal winter, she caught a chill. At first, it was just a cough. Then it grew sharper, tearing at her chest with every breath. She staggered through the icy streets, wrapped in nothing but a thin, ragged coat. Each cough left her chest burning, and sometimes a streak of blood stained her lips. Sophia knew she was seriously ill. But what hospital would take her? A woman with no home, no insurance, no money. Once she stumbled into a small clinic, her voice breaking as she begged, "Please, help me. I don't have money, but I'll do any work you ask." The doctor gave her one cold glance and shook his head. "This isn't a charity. Go somewhere else." The door slammed shut in her face. Sophia collapsed on the steps, clutching her chest, as blood mixed with her tears and the freezing rain. In her darkest moments, her mind always went back to Ethan. She pictured him as the boy who once held her hand by the river, who once promised, "I'll protect you forever." Some nights, she let herself dream of running back, telling him the truth, laying all her burdens on his shoulder. But every time, that thought was crushed, because she still carried a secret so devastating that if Ethan ever learned it, his entire life could be torn apart. So she chose silence. She chose to endure the pain, to vanish in the shadows of the city, far from the spotlight where Ethan shined. One afternoon, her strength gave out. She collapsed on the sidewalk, too weak to rise. People stepped over her. Some pinched their noses, others shook their heads in disgust. In a city of millions, not one soul stopped, until a small hand reached out. A little girl, no more than 8, stood before her, bundled in a worn wool coat. She held out a piece of bread, still warm, and said with a gentle voice, "Here, ma'am. Eat this. My mom says, if someone has less than us, we should share." Sophia's throat closed. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she clutched that bread like it was treasure. For the first time in forever, her heart felt warmth, but the feeling was fleeting. Her illness worsened, her coughing fits grew bloody, and her body withered to skin and bone. At night, she dreamed of Ethan, dreamed of his voice, of that promise. And every morning she woke up to nothing but the howling wind. She knew she couldn't last much longer. But what hurt more than the thought of death was that secret, the one she had buried for 10 long years, the one that could change not just her fate, but Ethan's as well. Cliffhanger. What was that secret, and what would happen when fate forced her to face it? That winter, New York was draped in white snow. Storefronts glittered with holiday lights. Couples strolled arm in arm, their laughter echoing through the streets. And Sophia, thin as a shadow, dragged her frozen feet across the icy sidewalk. Her cracked shoes offered no warmth. Hunger twisted in her gut. but the judgment in people's eyes cut even deeper. One evening, she stopped outside a diner, staring at the golden rotisserie chickens spinning in the window. Her stomach growled, her throat burned with thirst. Trembling, she stepped inside. "Please, just a little food," she whispered to the waitress. "I'll wash dishes, scrub the floor, do anything." The young waitress looked her up and down, sneering. "We don't hire street trash. Get out before you scare the customers." Sophia pleaded, her voice breaking. "I'm begging you, even just a piece of bread." Before she could finish, the manager stormed over, grabbed her arm, and dragged her toward the door. His voice boomed. "Get out! People like you don't belong here." Sophia hit the snow hard, her body trembling, her hands and feet numb from the cold. Inside the diner, customers peeked out at her. Some smirked. Others shook their heads. Not a single hand reached out to help. She bit her lip, swallowing her humiliation. But her heart felt like it had been ripped to pieces. That night, she wandered to an overhang where a group of homeless people huddled together. They burned scraps of wood in a rusty barrel, sharing a moldy loaf of bread. Out of the shadows, a drunken man stumbled toward her, his voice slurred. "You're prettier than the others here. Want to eat tonight? Come with me, and I'll make sure you're fed." He grabbed for her arm. Sophia jerked back in terror. "Let me go." But his grip tightened. The struggle drained what little strength she had. Just as she thought she couldn't fight anymore, an old homeless woman rushed forward, screaming, "Leave her alone. She's just a girl. Don't you dare lay a filthy hand on her." The drunk cursed and shoved the old woman to the ground before staggering off. Horrified, Sophia rushed to help the woman up. She coughed violently but still managed to smile. "Don't be afraid, child. Not everyone out here is cruel." From that night on, Sophia clung to the old woman like family. They shared every crumb of bread, every sip of water, huddling together for warmth in the freezing dark. For the first time in years, Sophia felt even a flicker of human kindness. But fate was merciless. One night, a brutal snowstorm tore through the city. The wind howled, the temperature plummeted. Sophia and the old woman curled together under a thin, tattered blanket. By morning, when Sophia shook her awake, the old woman's body was already cold. Her face, still soft, still smiling. As if she had slipped away in peace. Sophia wailed, clutching the frail body tight. Once again, the only person she had left in this world was taken from her. The city around her bustled on, oblivious. For Sophia, the world had collapsed into silence and emptiness. After the old woman's death, Sophia fell deeper into despair. She stopped believing in kindness, stopped hoping for anything. Every day she shuffled like a ghost, begging for pennies, scraps of food. Her eyes turned hollow, lifeless. And yet, deep inside, there was still one ember that refused to go out. That secret she had carried for 10 long years. It was the only reason she hadn't given up completely. Then one stormy night, as Sophia collapsed on the roadside, destiny intervened. A limousine pulled up. A man stepped out. Ethan Carter, her first love, now a billionaire. His eyes locked on her instantly, recognition flashing across his face. Cliffhanger. Ethan had found her. But why was Sophia so desperate to avoid his eyes? Could her secret be tied directly to him? After that blizzard stole the old woman away, Sophia wandered like a soul without a body. The days blurred together. Hunger, sickness, loneliness, eating her alive. She no longer had a reason to live. But sometimes, Even in the darkest night, a tiny spark of light appears, and that spark pulled Sophia back from the edge. One morning, she sat outside a supermarket, shivering, clutching a cracked plastic cup. A boy, maybe 10 years old, stopped in front of her. School uniform, red backpack, bright, curious eyes. Unlike the rushing adults, he didn't hurry past. He just looked at her quietly. "Ma'am, are you really hungry?" he asked, his voice innocent. Sophia's throat tightened. Her lips, cracked and dry, barely moved. I just need something, anything to get through today." Without hesitation, the boy pulled a sandwich from his backpack and held it out. "My mom says, if someone has less than us, we should share." Sophia's eyes flooded with tears as she took it. It had been so long since anyone gave her food out of pure kindness. She whispered, trembling, Thank you so much." The boy smiled and ran off, leaving Sophia holding the sandwich like it was treasure. She ate slowly, each bite warming her frail body. It wasn't just food, it was hope. After that, she lingered near that neighborhood. The boy appeared most mornings, sometimes sneaking her an apple, sometimes a carton of milk. Every small act lit a little warmth in her heart. Then one day, his mother discovered it. A small Asian woman, gentle eyes, soft voice. Instead of scolding, she stepped toward Sophia and placed a bag of bread in her hands. "I know it's not easy for you. Don't give up. Everyone deserves a second chance." Sophia stood frozen, stunned. It had been years since she'd heard such tender words. That night, curled up under an awning, she felt maybe, just maybe, she still had a reason to breathe. Day by day, she saw glimpses of kindness around her. A truck driver handing her a hot bottle of water. A group of volunteers giving out blankets. Each tiny act of humanity stitched her broken heart back together. She began to wonder, could I start over? One morning, she stood outside a small cafe. Summoning every ounce of courage, she stepped inside and asked for work. The middle-aged owner looked her over for a long time, then sighed. "I can't promise anything, but you can try washing cups for a week. Do well, and I'll pay you." Sophia nodded eagerly, her eyes lighting up with joy. For the first time in years, she had a job, small as it was. Her calloused hands shook as she touched the warm water running from the sink, but her heart raced with something she thought she'd lost forever. Maybe I still have a chance. That night, Sophia walked home with the few dollars she had earned. With it, she bought herself a small bowl of hot soup. As she sipped each spoonful, tears fell into the broth. Not tears of sorrow, but of gratitude. For the first time in years, she felt the simple happiness of a warm meal she had worked for. But fate never lets her go. The very next evening, as she stood at the sink washing cups at the cafe, a sleek limousine stopped outside. The door opened, and out stepped the man she had run into on that fateful rainy night, Ethan Carter. Cliffhanger. What would happen when Ethan walked into that tiny cafe and came face to face with Sophia again? Would the fragile spark of hope she'd just found be crushed, or ignite into something far greater? The wind chime above the cafe door jingled softly as it swung open. Sophia looked up, her hands dripping with water, the cup trembling in her grip. And then she froze. A man walked in with a confident stride, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, radiating power. The whole room seemed to glow in his presence. He didn't need an introduction. Every eye in the cafe followed him. Ethan Carter. Sophia's chest tightened. She wanted to hide, to vanish behind the sink, but her legs wouldn't move. The flood of feelings was unbearable. This was the man she once loved with all her heart, the man she once dreamed of building a home with. But now, he was a billionaire, and she was nothing but a dishwasher in a tiny cafe. At first, Ethan didn't notice. He walked to the counter and ordered an espresso. His voice, deep, warm, still the same as years ago, but now carrying the steel of a man who had battled through the brutal world of business. Then his gaze drifted, landing on Sophia, and time stopped. His eyes widened. That face, hollow, frail, but unmistakable. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice trembling. Sophia panicked, lowering her head, but Ethan stepped closer, his eyes locking on hers. "It's you. It's really you." The cafe fell silent. Customers whispered among themselves. "Oh my God, she knows Carter? What on earth is happening?" Sophia backed away, her voice shaking. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not—" But Ethan gripped her shoulders, his eyes burning with both pain and fury. "Don't lie to me, Sophia. No matter how much you've changed, I'd still know you. I've searched for you all these years. Why did you leave me? Why are you living like this?" Her lips bled as she bit down to hold back the truth. Her heart ached. 10 years of buried love surged inside her, but so did the fear, the secret she carried. If Ethan knew, his entire life would be turned upside down. "Ethan," she choked out. "Please, just let me go." His fists clenched, his voice breaking. "You think I can look at you like this and walk away? No, I won't lose you again." Sophia collapsed, sobbing, her tears dripping onto the tiled floor along with the water from the sink. The cafe was deathly quiet. The middle-aged owner stepped forward, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "If you truly care for her, give her time. She's been through more than you can imagine." Ethan said nothing, but in his eyes burned an unshakable resolve. He would not let her disappear again. That night, as Sophia left the cafe, Ethan was waiting by the curb. Under the yellow glow of the streetlight, he stood tall, his presence sharp, yet his eyes softened when they met hers. He opened the limousine door, his voice steady. "Get in, Sophia. I won't force you to say anything right now, but at least let me take you somewhere safe." Sophia froze. Part of her wanted to run. Another part longed to collapse into his arms, just once. But before she could decide, her body gave out. She fell, coughing violently, blood staining her lips. Ethan lunged forward, catching her in his arms. "My God, Sophia," he cried, holding her tight. In his eyes blazed a fire of determination. He would not lose her again. Cliffhanger. Ethan rushes Sophia to the hospital. And there, the secret she's buried for 10 years begins to unravel. But what is that secret, and how will it change everything? The wail of an ambulance tore through the wet night air, slicing open the silence after the storm. Ethan sat in the back, gripping Sophia's cold hand with both of his. She lay on the stretcher, her breaths shallow, every violent cough staining the white cloth with streaks of blood. "Hold on, Sophia. Don't you dare leave me," Ethan whispered, his eyes blazing with fear. The city hospital glared bright under fluorescent lights, the sharp smell of disinfectant filling the halls. The emergency room doors slammed shut in Ethan's face. He stood frozen, heart tangled in knots, helpless. Memories rushed in, Sophia's laugh by the Hudson River, her warm hand in his, the promise he once made, "I'll protect you forever." Now she was fighting for her life, and all he could do was wait. 2 hours crawled by like an eternity. Finally, the doors swung open. A doctor stepped out, face grim. Her condition is critical. She has advanced tuberculosis, compounded by severe malnutrition. If we don't start treatment immediately, I'm afraid. Ethan's fist clenched, his voice sharp yet trembling. I don't care about the cost. Save her. Do whatever it takes. The doctor nodded, but added, treatment will be long and difficult. More importantly, the patient must have the will to fight. If she gives up, there's only so much we can do. Ethan froze. The will to live. That was the question. Sophia had endured so much loss. Did she still have anything left to hold on to? He pushed into the recovery room. Sophia lay frail against the white sheets, her face pale, her eyes shimmering with tears. She looked at him, her voice a broken whisper. Ethan, why are you doing this? I don't deserve it anymore. He clasped her hand tight. Don't you ever say that. You've always deserved everything. I never stopped searching for you, and now I won't lose you again. Tears streamed down her face. But then she turned away, trembling. No, you don't understand. If you knew the truth, you'd hate me. Ethan's chest tightened, his heart twisting. What truth? Tell me, Sophia. I need to know why you walked away 10 years ago. She shook her head, tears soaking the pillow. I can't. It would destroy your life. Ethan's grip tightened, his eyes fierce. I've faced billion-dollar battles and survived, but losing you, that's what destroyed me. If you trust me at all, tell me. The room fell silent. The only sound was the steady beeping of the heart monitor, ticking away the tension. Sophia closed her eyes, drew a trembling breath, then whispered the words she'd buried for a decade. Ethan, we had a child. The words crashed down like thunder. Ethan froze, eyes wide in shock. What did you just say? Sophia nodded, tears pouring. That's why I left. When my father got sick, I didn't want to burden you. And when I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I thought I'd ruin your future, your career. So I hid it. I walked away. But the baby didn't make it. I lost them. Her confession broke into sobs. Ethan clutched his head, heart ripping apart. For 10 years he had thrown himself into work, believing Sophia had betrayed him. But now, the truth, she had sacrificed everything, carrying his child alone, and lost it without him ever knowing. He dropped to his knees beside her bed, gripping her fragile hand, his own eyes burning red. My God, Sophia, why did you go through this alone? Why didn't you tell me? She shook her head weakly. Because I loved you. I wanted you to have it all, without being tied down by me, or by a child you never planned. Ethan pulled her into his arms, tears streaming. You fool. You are everything to me. And that baby, if they had lived, I would have loved them with all my heart. You were never a burden. You are the most precious thing I've ever had. Sophia trembled in his embrace, feeling the crushing weight of her secret finally lift. For the first time in 10 years, she felt free. But then, the heart monitor spiked. The beeping grew erratic. Sophia convulsed, blood spilling from her lips. Doctors rushed in, pulling Ethan back. Sir, please step out. The patient is crashing. No, Sophia, Ethan roared, struggling against their hold. Don't leave me. The doors slammed shut again. Ethan staggered back, his hands trembling, tears streaming. His mind screamed one thought. I just found her again. I can't lose her now. Down the sterile hallway, his fists slammed against the wall. God, please, don't take her from me. She's all I have. A nurse emerged, her face grim. We're doing everything we can, but she's weak. You should prepare yourself. Ethan grabbed her shoulders, his voice a snarl of desperation. No. She will live. I won't let anyone take her from me. And just then, the doors burst open. The doctors shouted, We've got a heartbeat. Stabilize her, now. Ethan collapsed to his knees, tears flooding down. She still had a chance. She was still here. But just as a glimmer of hope began to take root, a shadow suddenly appeared at the end of the hospital hallway. A woman walked in. Sharp features, cold eyes. Her golden-dyed hair shimmered under the fluorescent lights, and her designer dress screamed of wealth and arrogance. Ethan recognized her instantly. Kelly, the so-called friend who had once betrayed Sophia. Kelly crossed her arms, a smirk curling at her lips. Long time no see, Ethan. Surprised, aren't you? The woman you're so desperate to save is nothing more than the filthy homeless girl I threw out 10 years ago. Ethan's eyes narrowed, his voice icy. Kelly, what did you do to Sophia? Kelly laughed, a bitter, mocking sound that echoed off the sterile walls. I simply showed her the truth. Love, dreams, all that nonsense. It's nothing but an illusion. If she had listened to me back then, followed the path I laid out, she could be living in luxury right now. Instead, she's lying half dead in a hospital bed. Ethan clenched his fists, fury flashing in his eyes. You destroyed her life. No, Kelly snapped back, her voice sharp. She destroyed herself. She chose poverty, sacrifice, disappearance. And you, Ethan, you were too blind to see it. The words cut deep, but Ethan stepped forward, unwavering. No matter who's to blame, I won't let her suffer another second. Kelly arched a brow, leaning in close enough for her breath to brush his ear. You think it's that simple? You're forgetting something. Sophia still owes me a debt. If you want to keep her, you'll have to go through me. Her threat hung heavy in the air, like a dark cloud over the fragile light Ethan had just found. He knew then the true villain of this story had returned, and she wasn't going to let go easily. From inside the ICU, the doctor's voice rang out. Patient's condition is stable for now, but she'll need long-term treatment, and her spirit must remain strong. Another shock could be fatal. Ethan turned back to Kelly, his eyes sharp as blades. Inside, his resolve hardened. He would fight to the end to protect Sophia, not just from death, but from the people who wanted to destroy her. But before he could speak, Kelly leaned in once more, her whisper like poison. Ethan, there's something you don't know. Sophia didn't just hide the baby from you. She's been hiding something else. Something far bigger. Ethan froze, his heartbeat pounding in his chest. What are you talking about? Kelly's lips curled into a sly, cryptic smile. Without another word, she turned and walked away, leaving Ethan standing in the hallway, his heart drowning in a storm of doubt. Cliffhanger. What is the other secret Kelly hinted at? Could it shatter the fragile happiness Ethan and Sophia just rediscovered? Or could it unlock a shocking truth? The next morning, sunlight spilled through the hospital window. Sophia's pale face stirred as her eyes opened, finding Ethan still sitting beside her. He hadn't left her side all night. Ethan. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, he said softly, gripping her hand. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Sophia nodded weakly, but a shadow lingered in her eyes. Kelly's sudden appearance had shaken her deeply. She knew, if Kelly revealed everything, Ethan would face a truth even more devastating than the loss of their child. Later that afternoon, Ethan met Kelly at a law office. He was done with games. The sleek conference room buzzed with tension as Kelly sat back, legs crossed, her expression dripping with challenge. So, you've chosen her side, haven't you? She sneered. I've chosen the side of the truth, Ethan replied, his voice razor-sharp. You used Sophia, forced her into a filthy path, and last night, you dared to threaten me. Did you really think I'd stay silent forever? Kelly threw her head back and laughed, the sound cold and cruel. Ethan, you're more naive than I thought. One phone call, and the media will know Sophia's ties to human trafficking. What will happen then? The mighty billionaire, disgraced for saving a dirty woman. Ethan leaned forward, his voice slicing through the air. You're wrong, because you're the one behind that trafficking ring. I had you investigated. Every piece of evidence is right here. He slammed a thick file onto the table. Kelly's face went pale, but she forced a smirk, clinging to her arrogance. You wouldn't dare. I don't just dare, Ethan cut in coldly. I will. Kelly, it's time you paid for everything you've done. Ethan's lawyer spread the documents across the table. Testimonies from other victims. Financial records linking Kelly directly to the dark empire she'd built. Kelly shot to her feet, her voice breaking into a scream. No! You're framing me! But just as the tension peaked, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the office. Police officers stormed in. One of them held up an arrest warrant. Kelly Parker, you're under arrest for human trafficking and extortion. Kelly's eyes went wide. She panicked, thrashing as the cuffs clicked around her wrists, her face twisted in rage. Ethan, you'll regret this. You don't know the whole truth yet. The doors slammed shut behind her, leaving silence in her wake. Ethan stood frozen, emotions surging through him, fury, pain, but also relief. Justice had finally been served. That night, he returned to the hospital. Sophia lay quietly, her gaze distant. Ethan sat beside her, his voice calm and steady. Kelly's been arrested. You don't have to fear her anymore. Sophia trembled, then broke down in tears. Ethan, I'm sorry for keeping the truth from you for so long. He pulled her into his arms, whispering against her hair. The past doesn't matter. What matters is that from now on, you and I will never be apart again. But then Sophia's hand tightened around his, her voice barely a whisper. No, there's still something you don't know. Ethan's heart skipped. What is it? Her tears spilled as she closed her eyes. The child we lost didn't really die. The words hit him like thunder. What? What do you mean? Sophia sobbed, her body shaking. I gave birth, Ethan. But I was so poor, so desperate. I had no choice but to let a family adopt the baby. I never saw them again. But our child is still out there. The room fell into silence. Ethan felt the floor vanish beneath him. Somewhere in the world, their child was alive. Cliffhanger. What would Ethan do to find that lost child? And would Sophia have the strength to face that reunion? The news of Kelly's arrest spread like wildfire across the media. Headlines exploded. Human trafficking ring exposed. led by charity socialite Kelly Parker. The public was outraged, but what moved them most was the hidden detail. This case had only been cracked because of billionaire Ethan Carter's persistence, defending a homeless woman scorned by society, who turned out to be his first love. Back at the hospital, Sophia slowly regained her strength, not just thanks to the doctors, but thanks to Ethan, who never left her side, holding her hand through every cough, every moment of weakness. The world may have seen Ethan Carter as a cold tycoon, but besides Sophia, he was just a man, terrified of losing the woman he loved. One afternoon, Sophia sat by the window, sunlight warming her pale but glowing face. Ethan walked in with a folder in his hand, a spark in his eyes. "Sophia, I have news," he smiled. "I hired the best investigators. They've found a lead on our child." Sophia froze, tears pooling. "You mean?" Ethan nodded firmly. "Yes, our child. A boy. He's 10 years old, living with an adoptive family outside Boston." Sophia broke down, covering her mouth with trembling hands. For years, she had carried the unbearable pain of loss. And now, hope was finally real. Weeks later, when Sophia was strong enough, Ethan took her to a modest home by the woods near Boston. The door opened, and a boy stepped out. Bright eyes, a familiar face that mirrored Ethan's youth. The adoptive mother placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "This is Daniel," she said softly. Sophia collapsed to her knees, her eyes locked on the boy. Every feature, every glance, he was hers. "My son, my little boy." Her voice cracked. Daniel looked puzzled but slowly walked forward, sensing something sacred in the woman's gaze. Ethan knelt beside Sophia, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Daniel, I'm Ethan, your father. And this is your mother, Sophia." Time stopped. Daniel hesitated, then stretched out his small hand. Sophia wept uncontrollably as she pulled him into her arms, her broken heart finally mended by the warmth of her child. Ethan wrapped his arms around them both, tears rolling down his face. The man who once thought he had lost everything now held his entire world in his embrace. From that moment, a family was reborn. Sophia continued her treatment, and miraculously, with her spirit renewed and surrounded by love, her health improved. Ethan brought her to his mansion, but Sophia shook her head. "I don't want riches, Ethan. I just want a home. A small, simple home, where the three of us can live together. Wealth means nothing without love." Ethan nodded. He finally understood. His greatest treasure wasn't his billions. It was Sophia and Daniel. Together, they created the Sophia Foundation, a charity dedicated to helping homeless women and survivors of trafficking. Sophia became its face, her story inspiring millions. Proof that even from the depths of despair, one could rise again, with hope and a helping hand. On the day of the foundation's launch, Sophia stood at the podium in a simple white dress, radiant and unbroken. Cameras flashed. Ethan and Daniel watched proudly from the audience. Her voice trembled, but her words carried power. "I was once homeless. I was despised. I lost everything. But today, I stand here. Not because I'm stronger than others, but because someone reached out and lifted me up. My message is simple. Never turn your back on those who suffer. A small act of kindness can save an entire life." The hall erupted in applause, tears streaming down faces across the room. Sophia glanced down at Ethan and Daniel. The three of them shared a smile, their eyes shining with unspoken love. A family once broken, now whole again. A heart once shattered, now reborn. This story closes not just with love reclaimed after the storm, but with forgiveness, justice, and faith in humanity. Because, in the end, one truth remains. Even in the darkest night, a single light can guide you home.